Welcome everyone to World's Cooldown, where we are going to break down the matches of the day and also preview the knockout stage as the teams are drawn in a couple of minutes, maybe 5, 6, 7. I don't know. I'm not promising anything. We will see the actual draw for the best of fives. So that gives us a bit of time to recap the tiebreaker. And I think when we look at this G2 versus Supermassive game, this is maybe how we would have expected it to go on the first day if G2 was playing at their best, but they weren't at all. So that is why I think it's kind of impressive that over the last 2 days, they've kind of found their style a bit more.
It felt like an evolution in the draft. That's what it felt like a mini best of 3 or a best of 2, honestly, where you get to a position where Akali was the focal point. Last time it was baiting perks onto the Akali. This time around, they swapped the Akali top side and sent the Urgot mid to deal with the Galio. That was really smart. But then there were real question marks about execution in the top lane match.
Supermassive's draft was, you were pulling your hair out at some of the choices. Could you explain?
Yeah, I mean, you can call it an evolution of the draft, but it felt like for the side of Supermassive, they didn't adapt at all. Like, Fabulous cannot play carries versus Wunder. That's just a straight fact. And for some reason, they leave both those up, and they agree to, like, swap Urgot and Aatrox again, and you're banning out Wadid's Alistar, who was like killing himself in the game that they played earlier today. So I'm just stunned that those were the choices that they chose to make in the draft. And I think that they had something up their sleeve that G2 deserves a lot of credit for sniffing out. GBM does play a lot of Aatrox, and they banned out the Lissandra instead of the Galio in the second phase to make sure they could not swap the Aatrox mid lane. But if you're able to swap the Akali out of mid lane anyways, you didn't actually need to ban that because you could have just swapped the Urgot to match the Aatrox if the Aatrox swapped. Either way, just the fact that they were able to give up that top lane thing again, and Fabulous just got obliterated. Mid lane got obliterated. Your bot lane, who is your strongest thing, you pick utility bot lane. Like, the whole thing for me was just...
It was weird. It almost seemed like Supermassive, like, dropped some of the plans of the things that work really well for them. Like, the bot lane, I think, was the most curious for me because we know that is their strong point.
That was ultimately because the Varus and Tahm Kench got banned immediately, so they were trying to struggle for that one. And I think that the big disrespect in the top side of the map was when they swapped the Akali top side, which is a losing matchup versus Aatrox. Aatrox should be able to take a massive dump on that one, including if he gets electrocuted. That's actually just a hard loss matchup for Akali, but he was able to come out with a CS advantage without much help there.
Yeah.
And the final point is, like, Zeitnot, as someone we've been hyping up a lot, I haven't seen Kai'Sa out of him, right?
Yes.
It's the strongest marksman in the meta by far, and it doesn't seem like he plays it, which is actually a massive liability to his team because they should have picked it this game. Like, that would have been the perfect champion. If you have these two skill matchups on the top side that require jungler attention, you have a superior marksman player on a superior pick in the bot side that when you reach late game can take the game over. Instead, he's on Ashe.
Yeah, so what does it come down to? Is it purely the draft, or was there just also a discrepancy in individual play at some levels, mechanically, that then just was exaggerated through the draft?
We hammered in the individual play of Wunder. I think Wunder played excellently. Jankos has been having a great day regardless, and Perks, once again, we already saw what he could do roaming across the map. So those 3 players did their job very well, and I think the draft helped out the bottom lane incredibly.
I think that's fair. We're only a couple of minutes away from the draw, so let's take a look at the standings as we have played every game in the group stage and see which teams will be appearing in those best of fives. So the first seeds are Edward Gaming, G2 Esports, after all of that, Cloud9 and GRex, and the second seeds Infinity Esports, Supermassive, That Nation Focus Me, and Gambit. So we're almost going to get to the draw, so maybe let's start talking about some of these teams. I think, okay, let me ask, did this all play out how you guys thought it would?
Goodness.
Because there are some, like, okay, after everything that happened, I mean, Infinity, I think, is one of the biggest ones that has surprised a lot of people today, but yeah.
It's close because I think a lot of people, especially with the 2-game suspension that was put on Surenfire, people thought, okay, this actually might be Infinity's group to get out of, and then it just didn't go the way that it happened. I think that's the end of the day for me, is like the play-in stage had a lot of expected results, but none of them got there the way you thought they would.
Okay, that's a good point.
This reminds me of like 2017 Worlds Pick'ems, where I'm like, by the end of it, the results like exactly what I thought it would have been. But I did not expect any of the trials and tribulations, the journey that it got there, because there was real faith that Direwolves would have made it based off the fact that their day 1 was exceptional, and then how bad Infinity.
But then they were still Australian at the end
yeah,
of
you're
the
right,
day.
day 2.
I'm so sorry, OS fans. I'm sure you can kind of laugh at it as well. It's maybe too fresh.
It's a little too recent, I think.
Yeah, it is a bit too recent. So we're going to get into the draw. Let me ask you, what are some of the matchups that you would love to see in the best of fives?
I didn't think about that because Supermassive is a team that I would have high hopes for, but it does feel like a lot of the top laners in the Pool 1 teams are great carry players.
Yes.
Like Licorice loves playing carries. PK has shown that he can play the carries very well. Ray, when EDG is playing their best, he's actually usually on tank duty, but we know that at heart he's a carry player, and so I'd be curious about how that goes. So Supermassive would have been the team to me to watch to see who they go up against, but it feels like they might have some potential style mismatches if Fab can't step up.
And also just the fact that in the games that they have won, mostly they're quite controlled and a bit slower in their approach. And a lot of the teams, I'm thinking they're mostly what we've seen now out of GRex, for example.
About to nail that one, yeah.
Yeah, they like to go ham in the early game, so that's also stylistically difficult. Oh, there we go. The draw. So there we'll see who EDG will draw. I believe it's iBoy. I can't really see.
I think it looks like iBoy, yeah.
100% it's iBoy. Let's see what we get out of him,
There we go. So they will directly draw their opponents, and it is Detonation Focus Me going up against EDG. So how this will work is all the first seeds will draw the teams that they will play in the best of 5. Of course, they cannot play a team that comes out of their own group, so EDG would not be able to play Infinity, but instead they get Detonation Focus Me.
A very unlucky draw for Detonation Focus means that they get the best team out of the Seed 1's field. So,
and we were very hyped for them.
Yeah, so the fact that they got out of the group stage into the knockout stage is incredible for them. They are super emotional out of that one, but this is a big task for them.
I believe so as well. You know, we were hyping them. They've had some good moments, but EDG is just a very, experienced organization. They've been around the block and they have some strong individual talent.
I would love to see how Evie can deal with Ray in the top lane.
Yeah.
For me, that's the marquee matchup. Perhaps Steel versus Haro/Clearlove, that could do it, but here comes...
There's your boy, Licorice.
Yeah, I'm
Who's he
surprised
gonna
they
draw?
trot him out of all people. No Sneaky, no Jensen.
No, is it going to be Supermassive? Is it going to be Infinity?
Let's see.
Is it going to be...
Don't make it Supermassive. Don't make it Supermassive.
Gambit. There we go. So it's kind of an old school EU versus NA match.
Now, I know Licorice always smiles, but he has to be smiling at the fact that that's the best guy.
I think he should be happy.
Yes.
Gambit is one of the teams that after what they've shown in playing stage, you should be happy to draw. They don't look particularly well-rounded.
Yeah, and remember last time in 2017, Cloud9 got Lion Gaming. That was a difficult run for them.
Yeah.
But going up against Gambit, they have to feel happy.
I think so too. Mark, you happy with that for season?
Yeah, I think this is something that's a good matchup overall. They do seem like they're a little outdated in the meta, and C9 is one of the teams that's always breaking out new things. They debuted the Lissandra with Aftershock, and I have no doubt they have more tricks up their sleeves in the best of 5.
Logic versus Sneaky once, I think that's going to be the matchup of that set.
Yeah.
Both of them have been doing exceptionally well.
Yeah, and as much as we had talked about Sneaky kind of losing a lot of laning phases domestically, that doesn't seem to have translated to the international stage. He has absolutely dominated on Kai'Sa. We'll have to see what they have in store to try and break that up and keep Sneaky off that. I don't think we'll be seeing more Draven, though.
Yeah, both team fights, I think, have been doing really well. Logic and his Tristana, the Kai'Sa you already mentioned for Sneaky, a lot of them are just being able to get their MVPs when they do win.
I wonder who's the next draw. Maybe they can't find the person that's supposed to do the next draw.
If you're out there,
this is taking longer than the previous ones.
butt off your seat and move to the bowl.
Where are you? Maybe they are.
There we go.
It's going to be GRex side.
And so who we have left? We have Infinity left, and we have Supermassive left. There we go.
Supermassive is the one that they're probably looking to avoid.
Infinity!
Okay, this could be some good team fights. I like this.
Especially because Infinity looks so different compared to their
Yeah.
first day's matchup. I thought Candy would dominate Kodopaco if we saw day 1, but he's a completely different player now on day 2, so I think we'll get a lot of really interesting skill matchups in the mid lane.
And I think this is going to be the first real test for GRex, because remember, if you're watching Infinity
Wait.
versus EDG...
This must have been an invalid draw, I think, because this would mean only G2 is left and then only Supermassive is left. Let me... That is correct. This is an invalid draw because, of course, this would mean G2 goes up against Supermassive, which is impossible. So I believe this then... I don't know if this now automatically becomes Supermassive. We'll wait and we'll get reset in just
That's why it took so long to get him on stage for the draw, because they didn't need to do it anymore. There were 2 B teams
Oh,
playing.
exactly. They didn't need to draw. So we just flipped them then, I guess. It will be GRex up versus Supermassive, and G2 goes up against... Help me, who's the last team left?
Infinity?
Infinity.
versus
Yeah, we just said it.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's actually the matchup I wanted to see, which was Supermassive versus GRex, because I wanted to see GRex get challenged.
Yeah.
Remember in the Gauntlet run, they made that run through the LMS. They came out in what was seen as the
reset.
weakest group.
Is that
versus
Toys, by
Gambit.
the way?
He's coming right back out.
Awesome. So
There's only one
There's
ball.
only one ball this time. Yeah,
What is this?
Raz, come on. Okay,
I cannot believe he
Supermassive.
dropped
Scripted.
Supermassive.
It's scripted.
Yeah,
How did it?
okay. Well, I hope everyone now knows that it's live because otherwise we would just cut that out. So the first draw was invalid. This one is in fact valid. Supermassive versus GRex.
But to make my point very clear, I think this is going to be the most impressive matchup. I think GRex, remember, making the run through Gauntlet, that was what people were judging them based off of, being a third-seeded LMS team, going up against Gambit and Chaos Latin Gamers. This is where you start to respect GRex a lot because they are great individual players, but team fighters, that's where you get tested on if you're going up against
Yeah,
Supermassive.
we'll get to talk a bit more about it in a second, so that does mean that G2 goes up against Infinity, which could also be interesting. I'm just a bit giggling at how the mishap happened. Sometimes you think things through so much when you could have just not drawn, but still.
Oh, he still has to go up
Yeah.
against.
Ceremony, of course. Let's make sure that everything is in order. Jankos is like, oh, well, what am I drawing?
I just want to see him. I want to see the shocked face, the mild shock.
Maybe there's like the wrong team in now. No, okay, there we go. Infinity, everything is correct, and he's smiling. He's very happy. I mean, Solid Snake Jankos is a good matchup, though.
Yeah.
100%.
After what we
fun.
saw today, Solid Snake put on a monstrous carrier performance, and Jankos does play a lot of early game junglers, but they're mostly in service of his laners to get them ahead, whereas what we saw out of Solid Snake was more about getting himself ahead, but while still working, obviously, with Cotopaco a lot.
Okay, there we go now. Those are the best of fives for clarity. Cloud9 versus Gambit, G2 Esports Infinity, and I already forgot the rest. GRex versus Supermassive.
Infinity versus
And Detonation Focus Me versus EDG, which is pretty rough for them. All right, so let's
G2.
start from the top then, maybe. C9's matchup. What do you
Is
reckon?
that the first one playing?
Yes.
C9, I think, should be fine in this. Gambit, like we were saying, very storied players, two great franchises going against each other, but when you dig into the actual playstyles that we saw out of the two teams, as much as C9 struggled, it did feel like this was even worse out of Gambit. Both teams were struggling to hit their strides exactly, but C9 in best of fives have so much flexibility between their two junglers that they actively swap between, and the fact that we haven't seen anything new and impressive out of Gambit concerns me.
You can already see the 100% on the first blood rate. Remember, the bringing in Blabber brings in a lot of that early game element towards Licorice. So I feel like that's going to be something you have to really deal with. And Diamond Prox has been a victim to a lot of early game pressure in his own
On
group.
top of that, we haven't even seen Svenskar, and of course C9 always has the option to swap that in. And I also think when we look at Reaper and when we look at kind of the trajectory of C9, always, they've been very well prepared for any best of five they've ever played. So I think they definitely have some good cards in the preparation department.
Prep definitely in their favor. I think individual matchups are in their favor a lot as
Yes.
well. We talk about Licorice in the top side, probably going to get the best of PvP stay host, but I think the biggest mismatch is actually the mid lane.
Yep.
Kira looked pretty sketchy on the second day of his group stage, and Jensen hasn't looked dominant, I would say, but is still such a just stalwart of a player that you can always rely on him to perform.
Yeah.
Yeah, different standards ultimately. I remember both teams very unhappy with their own play, but that's C9 saying, yeah, we are 4-0, but we feel like we were the best team, if not second best, because they're comparing themselves to EDG in the play-ins, while Gambit were just trying to scrape out. And that's what it really felt like for Gambit Gaming, where the individual play from Edward, from Kira, as you already mentioned, were really poor. And so I think that with Gambit, they should just really be focusing on Lodik, their young AD carry, to get them out of it.
I think so too, but I fear it may not be enough. We will see. Of course, that will be the first best of five that will be played. Then I also want to talk about the GRex matchup versus Supermassive. Raz, I know you're pretty hyped about that one. We already touched on the fact that stylistically, it may be quite difficult with an aggressive early game GRex versus a calmer Supermassive.
And what we saw from Supermassive was actually them getting picked apart early on in the laning phase. If you look towards the mid lane and the top lane for Supermassive, both of them had really large faults in laning. That's not going to be an issue for GRex. Both Candy and PK thrive on that. So if we're talking about just stellar individual players, that's going to be GRex versus what is going to be strong team fighters from Supermassive.
Is this the closest best of five, or?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I think so. I still think despite how disappointingly Supermassive ended, I would still prefer them or consider them the best second seed coming out. And GRex, I actually think, looked better than C9 in a lot of ways, better than G2, and they'll get the chance to prove it here, but it just feels so hard for the side of Supermassive given how problematic the top side and just the general laning phases looked at the very end of their group stage.
Yeah, I do hope that they come out with some maybe draft adaptations to kind of shore up that weakness. And I think then if they can play to their own style a bit more, who knows, they have a good chance. It would be huge for both regions, I think, for GRex to show that for the LMS, there's more than just a Flash Wolves to the region. To find themselves in group stage would be huge.
And this is a real breakout moment for Empty, the jungler for GRex, who's been really having a stellar performance. He's
You
talked
love
about
him.
I know, Canadian brother. I got respect for him. So a lot of him, he's been getting the interviews out. He's been being able to get some breath. Remember, he hasn't had much of experience with the team because they've been rotating between Raze and Bebe in the regular season. And when he's come out, he's been very strong, supporting Candy quite a bit, where that's where the attention is going to be pulled in this match.
Are you going to bring up that he seemed that he wanted to be on some NAT?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. This is a great tryout. Go out there, show what you've got.
TSM, leave him alone.
Snatch him up if he looks good. I don't know what his contract status is. He might not be available for 2019, but I mean, he looks really, really good. You talk about the fact that he can speak multiple languages, means he would integrate well onto a lot of North American teams. So I'm sure everyone has their eye on him, but that's a long way down the road. For now, he's just got to worry about the task in front of him.
We'll see, and maybe Supermassive can surprise us. I don't think. I think the issue here is that we have recency bias of that last game was really in favor of G2, but I think there's more to Supermassive. Hopefully, they can give us a competitive best of 5. We're going to talk about EDG in just a second, but for more context, before the knockout draw, Ovally took a minute to speak to iBoy after they secured #1 in their group.
I'm here with EDG's iBoy. Congratulations on the win. You guys are moving on to the next stage as the #1 seed in Group A, but your victory wasn't as decisive as most people expected. So what was giving the team trouble today?
那么今天你们虽然小组出现了，但是好像你们在出现过程中遇到了一些麻烦，所以说想问一下你们今天发生了什么，然后怎么看？
今天是陈武林，然后今天是好友，然后上场，然后我们整体打得比较进攻，然后有一点上头，然后就有些自己的失误。
Yeah, so today they play with Haro, and so the team gets overexcited, so they made a lot of mistakes. So that's why they had some trouble.
And you made your debut at Worlds last year, and now that it's kind of your second time around, what are you really hoping to prove and to show the world?
那么这是你第2次打世界赛了，那么想问一下，这次世界赛你有没有什么要带给所有世界玩家去展现你的实力的？有没有任何想法？
我觉得世界赛是每个选手最重要的一刻，因为他能就是展现自己的实力，然后我觉得每个选手都要好好珍惜这一段时间。
You think Worlds is the most important tournament for any pro player, so it's the best stage to demonstrate your skill and ability. So he's gonna try to use best of this time to prove to the world how good he is.
And your next competition is you're going to be moving into the knockout stage of play-ins, where you're either going to face Gambit, DFM, or the loser of G2 or Supermassive. So who do you really want to pull in that draw?
那么接下来你们要打一个这小组赛以后有个小淘汰的阶段嘛？你们可能要打 DFM 或者 Gambit， 或者等一下那场比赛加赛的失败者，你最想打谁？
我觉得12支队伍里面，我不知道，现在已经没有12支队伍了。我觉得剩下的队伍里面，我觉得我们实力是最强的，所以打谁都无所谓。
It doesn't matter. It's indifferent. He think they are the strongest among all the teams, so they can face anyone.
I like the confidence, iBoy. Well, congratulations again today on your performance. That's it from us here.
Awesome. Well, he got that Nation Focus Me. I think even if he had been afraid of anyone, maybe that Nation Focus Me is not a good match for EDG after what we've seen. I mean, we've been very hyped about them, and I think they've shown very good moments. But at the times that EDG looked at their top, they looked a size too big for a Detonation Focus Me.
And I believe that the biggest mismatch is going to be in the mid lane. While Syros has been hyped up in his champion pool, remember Scout has been having a styling moment. Yeah. And on top of that, early game pressure has been the thing for Scout. When he doesn't have anything to face from the mid lane, let's say Syros plays a lame style with the Ziggs, he's just going to leave the lane, and so you have to really keep track of that.
One of the things that I think DFM could potentially use in their favor is if Ray does get stuck on tank duty a little bit, if it's Haro in there and he's playing the Camille's, the Zins, the more aggressive junglers, and Evie is still playing the more carry-oriented champions, maybe they can try and play through topside a little bit, but Ray's such a beast. Like, I think he plays so many carriers that he knows how to play the tank end of those matchups very well as well, and so I don't think he'll actually struggle, but that is where I would expect, if I was to look at one potential place for DFM to look, it would be top.
And of course, I have to ask Raza as the LPL expert. We did see EDG stumble in the mid game just once today versus Infinity. Do we think that's going to be a problem in a best of fives?
In a best of 5, Once again, I don't think so just because you have the 3 games to back it up. EDG do make these errors mid-game every time in Worlds. The major Worlds moment everyone remembers is that best of 1 versus SKT. But they're going up against what seems to be a young lineup in Detonation Focus Me except for Yutapon and Seros, and I feel like in that matchup, they have nothing to worry about.
Okay, we'll see that. Finally, we didn't talk about it too much. Short G2 versus Infinity preview. I mean, if both teams go head-to-head, I think there's some very strong individual players on Infinity that could make this an interesting matchup.
Yeah, maybe. I really liked what I saw today out of them, and in particular Cotopaco, but we keep talking about Perks and how good he is, and it feels like, you know, if they're going to play these skilly matchups, I actually really do think Perks matches up very, very well in those, as well as the fact that Wunder is so good in the top side. Like, I really...
What if you ban Urgot? Or
I mean,
Polly?
like, that's what I want to see, because on Sion, the team looks substantially worse, and then for some reason, people haven't tried to do that.
Yeah.
So I hope to see Infinity maybe take that approach.
And speaking of Sion, whenever it comes to Infinity, we don't get a chance to talk about Relic all too often, the top laner, who had a
beast.
beasting Sion game, honestly. He was that much closer to get it, you know, if Cotopaco wasn't the Aurelia just dashing here and there. So I would say that for this matchup, I'd of course give it to G2. But you still have to watch out for the mid lane, top lane. And I know the bottom lane has been a real core weakness of G2, so just looking at the Rookie of the Year, Renyu, and Arctic could be a difference.
Okay, I definitely hope that we get some upsets in the games, and I'm sure that with some preparation, the teams that we are pitting as the underdogs might have a good showing. We'll have to see, but as we lock up today, that's not how you say that, right? As we kind of finish up today, let's also review the MasterCard players of the game. From the tiebreaker, the player of the game was Perks versus Supermassive, and then the others today, we had Jankos from G2, Cotopaco, as said for Infinity, GBM, Solid Snake also on that second Infinity win, Wunder, and Scout. I think here we get a good view at some of the strongholders of the teams that we find in Knockout.
What's interesting is the fact that for G2, 3 different players picking up each of their...
and the top side.
Yeah, all on the top side as well, no surprise.
Well, I was asking you guys, what does Yarnan need to do to get a player of the game?
He was really close on the Kaisa game he played where he got a bajillion kills, but so much more of the action was running through the top side. It was a little
You said like
unfortunate.
4 pentakills or whatever.
I don't know, did I say that? I might have said that. But it bodes well for them, the fact that everyone had picked one up, and especially at that last game, showing a lot of draft flexibility with like your 2 solo laners who can play so many different champions.
What I loved about that, remember the player of the games for the entirety of the day, both Infinity and G2 will be going up against each other anyways. Yeah. And it was just jungle mid versus jungle top. Wunder Jankos versus Solid Snake and Cotopaco. I feel like that's going to be the mainstay. They still have Perks sitting there, so that's going to be real fun to see what the jungle difference will be.
I agree, and I think in general, there's a lot of players we kind of have our eye on from the first and second seeds, and now they have possibly 5 games to show the world what they are worth, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. And throughout the play-in groups, plenty of insane things transpired. We saw it just today. You guys made sure to tweet out which were large enough to be deemed an Acer Predator big play. First up, the Creative Cat said it best when it came to Renyu's game. Who needs triple when you can have a penta?
As the double kill does manage to go through, VODS takes down the Braum, the fight just continues.
Deme la penta, deme la penta. Deme la penta, eso lo necesito. Let's go, baby.
Let's go, baby. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, Renyu's finally stepping up and kind of getting some of the shine back on himself. Like, you're saying, he was the rookie of the split. So a lot of people kind of probably didn't know that with how much of the playmaking was going through the mid and the jungler, but he actually is one of the primary stars for that team.
That was
real
awesome.
Fun to see, real fun to see out of him.
Yeah, sorry. Did you want to add anything?
I think that a lot of the focus gets ping-pong between the jungle and the mid lane, so I was just saying the fact that he got that spotlight in the moment, it's something we should see a lot more often in the Kaisa. Maybe it's just banned away from him, but that and Varus, he should have a good game off.
I agree. Next up, Cargo tweeted out a similar rebuttal. Who needs G2 when you can have G4 smashing on LeBlanc?
Ooh, Ignite down, more hits. The GBM ticking down, and GBM is down. G4, can they pull the kill back up? He distorts to the top of lane, pulls out Ragnarok from Stormage.
And the 2v1 outplay out of G4, just no fear at all. Burns both summoner spells, gets his man, and he's gonna get first turret as well.
It's like a that hit song, like a G4, like a G4.
It's a G6.
Getting solo kills like a G4.
You need to add 2 to that.
Come on.
I did that in MSI. I don't know.
I can't have any fun with you guys.
Hit the quota on that one.
I liked his Cassidin too.
What?
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, that could be the next line. All right, finally, Stargirl declared it on the mountaintops. No one ultis Blabber 5 times in a row and gets away with it.
And now Blabber again in danger of being ulted. He's dead. He tags in again. Blabber. Oh my God, he kills this now. He lived.
I got knocked out by Zen. Tower. We're fine.
Yeah, we're fine.
Ziggs no ult. I need your base.
I'm okay. We can fight.
I hit him out.
I'm okay. Yeah. Eric might be dead. I'm 1 HP.
We need out. Just peel.
Blabber's frontline Kindred is why you expect Jensen on Zillion and Galio when he's playing Kindred, because he's hopping forward at people in front of anyone else.
Brain off,
and
I
then
go in.
He gets shot at, and then suddenly he doesn't have a defensive person to protect him. That was why he died so many times.
I mean, I gotta be honest, C9 with Blabber is so cool to watch.
It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch.
It's like a roller coaster.
Edge of your seat gaming.
Yeah, it's awesome. So make sure to keep tweeting all the big plays that you see as they come along so that we don't miss a single one of the big moments of Worlds 2018. And now we will return for the play-in knockouts on Friday the 5th of October, where we will play 4 best-of-5s over 2 days. I'm personally very excited for that. The weekend starts at 8:30 p.m. PST. That is 5:30 a.m. CEST, with Worlds Countdown, which leads to our first match pitting Cloud9 against Gambit, followed by EDG versus DFM. And then G2 Esports versus Infinity with GRex versus Support. So there'll be a lot of action. There'll possibly be 10 games. And I get a woohoo!
Yeehaw!
Okay. No,
It's a typical day at the LPL. I'm just ready for it. I'm going in for the action.
so we're about to go into the best of 5s in a couple of days. Can I get a final thought of kind of a takeaway of the group stage? Raz?
A lot of, one thing that I wanted to say, because, coming off of the G4 thing, it goes to show that there are so many regions to watch out. You will miss a lot of them because there's a lot of plays, but there are some great players out there. So it's great for the players like Tearwolf, like G4, that gets an opportunity to show their stuff out in the world. So that's my little tidbit.
I
Just
love
the
it.
great players.
Inspirational. What are you gonna do, Marksy? You gonna just flame someone?
I hate it. No, I'm kidding.
Let me get the fire extinguisher.
No, you don't need it. I was going to say, despite the outcome where all the number 1 pool 1 seeds going to the group stage 1, and even if all of them win their best of 5s, I think it would really be a disservice to just look at the outcome, because so many players stepped up, like you're saying, and so many teams made this so interesting to watch, because we thought EDG lost, oh my God. Yeah. We thought G2 might not get out. C9 looked suspect and almost lost to the LGL representatives in Detonation. So so much stuff happened. And I think if you just looked at all the pool 1 seeds won, you will have missed out on a great number of games.
I completely agree. It's been great, and it's only going to get better, and that's going to do it from us here. And for myself, the casters, the entire broadcast crew, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you for the play-in knockouts.
We are on the Summoner's Rift here for the first time today, the final day of play-in group stages. Your Snowmake's gonna be in a lot of trouble, pulled back into the grinder! First kill of the team fight goes over to G2, they'll make it a double for the top laner. Yarnan and what did? Caught out in the wrong place! Or are they actually? It's a rampage for Yarnan! The fight's turned on its head! With sight not down, the game is done! G2 find their revenge for the first day! Here comes death and destruction for the Direwolves. Surefire turning as much as he can, that's 2 kills. Getting traded back and forth, but at the end of the day, the 3 for 2. Triple does not hesitate to flash in. Kotapaku's gonna burn his flash as well. Oh! Dancing over! Oh my God, outplayed!
Dame la penta.
Let's go, baby! Not afford to get taken down by Rich. Yarnan, though, just cleaning up the rest of the team. Perks is gonna live. A beautiful stop on that ultimate coming through, and G4 wants something, but he doesn't get it.
Wow, guys. Wowzer. Time to take our shoes on again.
Is iBoy gonna pursue any further? Scout leaving in the middle of the team. iBoy is there as well. They're just looking to clean up, but they're the messy. Messy melee. Double kill dropping for Scout. Star's gonna be taken almost down the knuckle. Yet Snowmake's grabbing that kill with the Dragon Lance. As now Ascension are still looking to run down the rest of Supermassive. They're gonna be interrupted by the Hextech ultimatum. Gally Walty coming in now as well. GBM looking to find a massive taunt. He's killing everybody. Ascension Esports is on the run.
No flash. If it's TPs, I can check.
Nice. G2 are simply too far ahead. He's running, he's trying, but it will not matter. He will drop in the face of G2. Here, he goes in for sight now. He wants to reset it. He wants to delete that Ash, and he's gonna get it. AD carry's already been taken down. The damage goes through, and now Mako might be in some trouble here himself. Solar Flare coming out, not gonna find the mark. Going to the enemy. AD carry, a double kill over now to the side of Infinity Esports. Orsay's in the back line. Infinity needs to finish the rest of them off. Mako's gonna be taken low. Scout's gonna be taken low. Shut down over to Cola Paco. More damage coming through. You gotta be kidding me! Infinity Esports, you just did it! Let's send things over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.